Welcome, everybody. Josh Hudson here with Club Fantasy's No Punt Intended. And once again, for the second week in a row, we have the second annual Women of Fantasy Football event. This is week 2 this year. Huge guests once again. We'll be leading off with Yahoo Fantasy's Liz Loza and concluding the show with the football girl herself, Melissa Jacobs. And in between, we're giving away some raffle items. We've got a signed Devontae Adams Packers jersey, a signed Justin Jefferson Vikings jersey. Winners will be announced in between, so stay tuned.
Hi, everybody.
Jamming over here to that awesome intro. I
know,
like, yeah.
That intro music.
I think that's why I wasn't on the screen immediately.
Yeah.
Josh was like, calm yourself, Lauren. Calm yourself.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I ruined your chi there, boo. Continue.
He wanted to make sure that we showcased our fabulous guest front and center first
Absolutely.
and foremost.
Liz, meanwhile, was like, thanks a lot.
Right? We're like, okay, then. So, good evening, everybody.
Josh, like, pre-show, by the way, Josh got all, like, bossy. He was like, y'all stop talking. Girls, stop talking.
Yeah.
Oh, this isn't an episode of The View. I don't know who you think you are. And then he got the intro. So.
Hashtag diva.
Yeah,
And then he was
exactly.
doing all the hand motions, too. And he's like, here's what we're doing. Here's how it's going to go. This is what it is. And then y'all are out. Jeez. Okay.
Do you want to, and yeah. So let's go with
We're supposed to have an intro to this, I swear.
I was going to go with the intro and I was all excited. I was all ready to go. And then I was like, oh, hey, that's Liz. Hey, girl, hey.
Hey, girl, hey. I like
Hey,
your
girl,
glasses,
hey.
by the way. I like
Thank
those
you.
clear rims. They're cute.
Her
You
power
upgrade.
lipstick is off the chain. I can't.
Mhm.
I don't think anyone says that anymore. It's like circa
I'm making it
1995.
come back.
I
We're gonna
know.
make it
Like
come back.
Liz's scrunchy.
Like Liz's scrunchie.
Bought that dish at the farmer's market for $2 from a teenager. What's up?
Hey, girl.
Yes, queen.
And maybe we
So
should like introduce the
anyway-
show for real. Faith, take it
Okay.
away, girl. All
I'm
you.
trying to.
I know.
Anyway, welcome back to our second week of Women of Fantasy Football here in 2021. For the next 3 weeks, this week and the following 2, we have some fabulous women in sports, in football, in fantasy football, including this lovely lady. Yes, I did it right.
I know. I do that too.
Liz helped us kick off our shows last year. She was our first ever guest on Women of Fantasy Football. And Stepmom Lauren is back as my co-host. Stepmom Lauren, how are you?
I'm doing good. I have a new cup this time. It's really swirly because
Ooh.
the one that you gave me is in the dishwasher. And this kind of represents what my brain looks like right now.
Sometimes I feel like it kind of represents how this show got started today too.
Why not? Creatively chaotic.
You know what? There's waves. It comes in you know what? We're on the same page.
Love it.
So, Lauren, why don't you tell us a little bit about what is going on, what WOFF is, and who we have joining us?
So, I mean, she knows no introduction, but just hang on a second. I'm going to pull a Josh here. Wait your turn, Liz. Wait your turn, lady. Anyway, Women of Fantasy Football is a super cool event, let's call it, that we started last year. We're doing it again this year, and it's basically to highlight all of the boss ladies that are in this industry and have really had to grind and work and get to where so many people would love to be, whether you're a woman or a man in this industry. It doesn't really matter, but we're here to celebrate women's voices. We're here to celebrate women's perspective, and we're here to celebrate all of us ladies who love football so much. So with that being said, we have one of my favorite people ever and my girl, Liz Loza, who I frequently call Spirit Animal. And if you're offended, I'm so sorry. I'll probably keep saying it. But Liz, thank you so much for coming back to our show again. After putting up with us last year, she still said yes to coming back this year. So Liz, how are you? What has been going on since we spoke last?
Oh, my goodness. Well, 2020 was a real quiet year.
Nothing going on.
stayed in a lot.
Yeah.
You know, not a lot of drama. Everybody seems really chill with one another. So
No beef at all on the internet.
just a blip, really. And 2021 is shaping up to be similar. Let me be real. So yeah, I don't know. It's been it's been a year, right? I am in the throes of draft prep for Yahoo Fantasy, for myself personally, for my husband who's in a high stakes league and yells at me if he doesn't win the money from our joint account back at the end of the year. So no pressure, just easy breezy, lemon squeezy.
It's all your fault that he lost his money.
Yes.
Your money. Sorry.
Yeah. My money. Our money.
Exactly.
Our
money. Exactly.
No, I love that because, football, in case anyone doesn't know this, let's say someone's tuning into this that doesn't know much about fantasy football. Spoiler alert. It is a lot of educated guessing. Mm-hmm. This is what this industry is. If we knew what was going to happen, I would own Belize. I wouldn't be doing
Oh, girl, I love
many
Belize.
things.
It is unbelievable.
It is unbelievable. I love it. That was
I love it there.
I've never been to Belize, but I still want to own it for some reason.
Oh my gosh, it's fantastic. It is.
I have to go.
I've never been either. Let's go. Girls trip.
We need to do it. We need to make this happen. I think my husband wants to buy real estate there, so he may want to go as well. But, we'll have a girls' night out.
Later.
He'll meet us there. But you had something pretty spectacular happen to you over the summer. And Faith, I know that you're the one that brought this up. So you kick this question off for Liz.
So when I was from the ages of 8 to 12, I was on a swim team. And I actually, when I was 10, I actually met Summer Sanders back in the day. So when the Olympics come up every 4, sometimes 5 years, swimming is always one of my most watched. It's actually really the only event that I watch because in a former life, I had a stake in it. And simply because she's so amazing, Katie Ledecky is my favorite female swimmer, my favorite female Olympian, and you got to talk to her this year. How was that?
It's great. I've actually talked to Katie twice. Now I've interviewed her twice, once in May and then once after her numerous medal run.
She cleaned up.
Yes, in Tokyo. Katie is great. She more than just like being the first lady of freestyle and the most decorated woman in swimming worldwide, a world record holder at her sport. She also has a degree in psychology from Stanford. So
wow,
a little bit intelligent. And her dedication is absolutely incredible. We talked in May, and then I was actually touched because when she came back to do more press after Tokyo, when she got home, she requested me because we had had a nice sesh together, and sometimes so we connected, and I asked her if she peed in the pool, and so maybe she won't request me next time.
But what was the answer?
That.
We were playing a silly game because these athletes are doing these press tours. They get tired of the same questions, like, what does a gold medal feel like? Well, Katie's like, that times 4,000. Like, I'm not a lady. So we're playing this quick response game. What's your favorite ice cream? Blah, blah, blah. And the last question is, be honest, have you ever like something about when was the last time you peed in a pool? And then she, her face changed. She was like, I don't do that. And I was like, I mean, I didn't think you did. And she was like, yeah, I try not to. And I was like, oh, I try not to means you definitely have.
Yeah. I remember.
By the way, whom among us hasn't? Nobody needs to raise their hand. I have 2 small kids.
Oh, wait, we don't need to raise our, my bad.
Definitely.
It
not
happened.
making a habit of it, but it has happened. We've all been children, and some of us have them. It's a lot to get undone when you're in the deep end.
Well, yeah, or if you're at a water park and you're deep in the wave pool and there's a sea of people sometimes.
Yeah.
For anyone who's not tried to take off a one-piece bathing suit,
right?
The struggle is real.
For anyone who has not tried to take off a wet bathing suit, period.
Yeah, it's true. That struggle is real.
But girls have tricks.
We sure do. Now that all the men are very excited about this conversation and we're talking about bathing suits and all that good stuff, let's go back to fantasy football here, Liz, because you were just nominated by the Fantasy Sports Writers Association for your Rest versus Rust piece, which is pretty freaking cool. And in fact, you and our other guest we had on last year, Jen Piacenti, she was also nominated for her series. Tell us how that series even came about at all in the first place. What went into that, and what is it, just for everyone who doesn't know?
Absolutely. So Rest versus Rust. Well, first of all, I was really honored by this nomination because it was a written nomination. I've won awards for video in the past, and the podcast at Yahoo has been nominated a couple of times. But Andy Behrens, who's a colleague of mine, obviously is also the president of the Sports Writers, the Fantasy Sports Writers Association. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And he will say that the ongoing football series category is the most submitted to. So there's the most options or submissions available for the judges to sift through. And so it really is an honor to be nominated. And I have to be honest, I think you guys can agree when you're creating content, a lot of the content is recycled from season to season. You have your sleepers, you have your busts, you have your start sit. And during 2020, I legitimately thought this year is so bananas and everybody is so depressed and everybody is so down. And if I don't find a silver lining and learn something from all of this adversity, it will have won. And I am not a quitter and I am not a loser. I'm a flipping winner. So I have got to find some new creative inspiration. I have to come away with this a more evolved human. And so I really wanted to delve into different kinds of creative outlets. And there was all of this talk about, COVID, and yet I was seeing zero, frankly, if I'm being honest, zero analysts, male, female, in between, talk about COVID as if it could be a real impediment over the summer. And I was like, do you not see what's I don't care what your stance is on it, but it is a thing. And if we just turn a blind eye to it, doesn't mean it's going to go away. So I got in touch with this with an orthopedic surgeon who was also the team doctor at the University of Southern California, and I was like, "Can I pick your brain about COVID?" And then that kind of just talking to him and chatting with him about what the protocols might be and how that could affect players or starters or teams really kind of struck me as well, what about this concept of rest versus rust? We hear these players who have had an injury like Cam Newton, like Ben Roethlisberger this year, like Saquon Barkley or Dak Prescott, and they've missed basically the whole of the regular season. So are they going to be rusty, or are they such elite athletes that they should be able to rebound? And does the type of injury and the type of recovery time necessary impact that at all? And so I just did a ton of research and, was really fascinated, and I liked it. And the FSWA, I think, appreciated that it was different from all of the same content and that has utility, no shade, but that is constantly churned out every year. And so I did it again this year. I started with Dak Prescott, and then Saquon Barkley, and I wrote that series at least the Saquon article, I think I wrote in June. And I was like, listen, this guy is not going to see a full workload week one. It's not going to happen. He has the toughest schedule of any workhorse back in the entire league. Manage your expectations. And now it's August and people are slowly dropping him on their depth charts. And now it just isn't the same oh, he's Saquon, he got this. No. And then my third player was Kenny Goliday. And what I discovered with the doctor was that probably Kenny Goliday had a labrum tear in his hip, which becomes symptomatic, which can be asymptomatic in a player. They might not even know it exists. In a regular human, might not even know it exists. But if it does become symptomatic, the only way to fix it is surgery. But Kenny Goliday didn't want to get surgery when he knew he was going to be a free agent. And he didn't want to affect the potential splash that he could make in the free agent market. And by the way, he made quite a splash. He was one of the top 8 highest paid wide receivers now after that contract. And I was like, but his kinetic chain is messed up. In fact, there was a quote that the doctor gave me about him potentially and likely having recurrent soft tissue issues along the lower part of his body. Well, then what happens? Now Kenny Golladay's hurt and he has a hip strain or a hamstring issue. I'm sorry, he has a hamstring issue, which is a soft tissue issue, and he can't play. And so it felt, I would never do a victory lap on a player being injured, but I also feel like I'm proud to have these discussions in places where other people don't want to have them because they aren't necessarily attached to breakaway run rates or juke rate percentages. And so we can't like throw a dart at an exact stat, but have to kind of use, women's intuition and, make some actual leaps and do some research instead of just knee jerking into a ranking because you put a projection into an algorithm and like, that's what you're standing by. So that's it.
That's it. I mean, that sounds like it's not a lot of work at all. That sounds, very boring. But I love that. I love how you dive. And one of the things that's so great about this piece too is, like you said, you dive into that medical aspect, not because you are a doctor yourself, but because you talk to those people who are, and you're getting that expert knowledge. And then you're using your own fantasy knowledge. You're using your own knowledge of the industry, of the sport, of the game, of how we play the game to put two and two together. You know, it's a wonderful way to do it. And it's not necessarily, like you said, you're not doing a victory lap. What you're doing here is you're saying, look, this is research just like any other type of research. So when people are going in, you can share that information with people who are going to be able, like you said, manage expectations on certain players and avoid getting, if we want to look at it very microscopically, avoid getting sucked into all the hype, all of the top of mind awareness hype, because you have this series that comes out that looks at something in a completely unique and in a very different way, but then still helps us in fantasy, which I think is super awesome. And I love that series. And I'm so happy. I was going to say proud, like I have anything to do with this. I'm super proud of you for getting nominated. Just letting you know.
Well, I also think it's not necessarily just a player by player. Like people are like, you can't do one of those on everyone. No, but you can learn about like ACL and MCL injuries and then be able to extrapolate that information to another player. You can look at labrum tears now differently and think like, well, this is a receiver who has a similar skill set. So I wonder how this might manifest in playing time in the future for this other player. But like the more you educate yourself about these things, I think the larger your knowledge base grows.
Absolutely.
So Liz, considering your Russ versus Russ series was incredibly different than things that have been done, and you were nominated for an FSWA. What is your initial reaction to hearing about that nomination and what it meant to you as a woman who not only knows fantasy sports, writes fantasy sports, reports on fantasy sports in a mostly male-dominated industry?
Do you want that real answer?
Yes.
Yeah, girl, that's what we're here. Yes.
That's what we do.
Mean, I was frankly, I believe that I was the first woman nominated in that writing category in the history of that award.
Wow.
And I was surprised that more people weren't talking about that.
More people were talking about
that.
No, I mean, if you want my real answer, like the real answer, I was like, I don't believe, now I don't know 100%, but I don't believe that a woman has been nominated for that award, that category in particular, in the history of its existence. And nobody mentioned that. And I was a little bit surprised, but
surprised is a very nice word. I would have used a little bit more colorful language on that besides surprised, but we're going to make a big deal out of it. That's just ridiculous.
Well, it does. I mean, now I got to win it next year. That's like,
exactly.
That's
a repeat. Hello.
Well, no, I was only nominated last year, but now I got to win it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I feel you, but still, that's huge.
For those who don't know, what is the category that you were nominated in?
I believe it is written ongoing football series.
And and I think what's so spectacular about this is, just to reiterate for anybody watching who doesn't know who Liz is, which you live under a rock. Don't live under a rock anymore. Liz is one of those people that you always find who's going to be on podcasts. She has that beautiful face, that gorgeous voice, that amazing analysis. Her verbiage is amazing. Her diction is incredible. So to be able to write to do this and to be on a written form of media is very, very challenging. It is an incredibly difficult media to produce. I know on a very small scale, writing is very, very challenging. Whereas I feel that being on a camera, behind a microphone, things tend to flow a little bit differently. But when you write, every single piece of your work and every single word is scrutinized, every single tiny piece down to your punctuation. And that is so incredibly challenging and it's very difficult. So for me, I am moved and super honored again that I get to call you my friend and league mate. So it is really cool for me that you are the first woman that was nominated for this category in a media that you said yourself.
I have not vetted it.
We're going to go with it until someone says we're wrong. Whatever.
I don't want to get accused of fake news.
You know what? I feel like we have a team of researchers standing by that could verify that information for us really quickly.
Get to work, boys.
Wink, wink. Yeah, exactly.
Someone get Andy Barons on the phone.
So, Lauren and I last year were part of a fantasy football league known as the Super Flexi Draft Queens. Started by the one and only Ms. Liz Loza. And I believe we are expanding this year.
I mean, if I can find some time to get my ass together and
you know what? You and Josh can get together about the woes of trying to start a league right now because he's having struggles with it too. But it's okay.
This herding cats, I believe, is
the
best.
It's not
toddlers.
Honestly, it's a good thing because there's been such an infusion of women, enthusiastic, smart women in the space who want to participate that, we had a 14-team super flex. I gave up in week 4. Congrats, Linda. You won the whole damn thing. Like, great.
Yeah, she cleaned up. I was like,
she did clean it. She took the broom and swept.
Yup.
But so now it's like, well, there are other women that I want to invite, but do I have to be in another league? Is that what that means now?
I mean,
so I can give up in week 6 instead of week 4.
We can call it the Liz Loza Super Flexi Draft Queens League, but you don't have to be in it.
My life. No. I mean, I feel like we have to work it out. You know what? Tonight, I'm gonna open a bottle of Sauvignon Blanc because it's a little warm here, and I will relax into it and figure it out.
That's right. Yes. Think in fluid, let it marinate, let it incubate, and figure out what you need to do. I have one last question for you, Liz, and it's more of like a general question. I believe we asked you something similar last year, but just in case this is the first time anybody's been watching, what kind of advice would you like to give to women and to men, young, older, whatever, who want to maybe get involved in this industry, get started in this industry? What piece of advice would you give to them? And basically, I guess, what's helped you as well, grow as much as you have and just be boss lady like you are?
Well, I think both of you are inspirations to just doing it, like just getting up and doing it. Lauren, like you showed interest and then you submitted yourself for stuff and now you're crushing left and right. And Faith is on Instagram and the socials and you guys are posting about things that are not what you ate for brunch.
Bloody Mary.
Sure. Yes. Of course. Natch. But I appreciate you making the distinction between because I get the question, right? Like, what other advice would you give to women in the space? And it's like, well, I'm going to give advice to anybody who wants to be a content creator. And that is go create, keep an authentic voice, make it your own, learn how to write, because being able to do all 3 things, podcast, video, and write, certainly just allows, gives you a better advantage. Just means you can start in other places. I started a blog, and every year, at first it was just for fun, and I wrote a couple of articles, and then the second year I reached out to other podcast hosts and said hey, I really like sleepers. Here's some articles I wrote for my silly little blog last year. Can I do a sleeper segment on your show? And they said yes. And then every year I was like, how can I expand? What can I do next? How can I evolve? Last year was Rest versus Rust. I don't stop that. There's an announcement coming later this week about the next evolution. I am excited, always pushing. Pete Carroll says something about pushing the edges of your potential. And I feel if you are truly a content creator and you are really interested in connecting with people in creative ways, and the way you are doing that is through fantasy football, then you have to think about the things you're good at, work more at the things that maybe you're not as great at, and just keep doing it and be consistent and treat it like a job and not just a hobby. Which I will also say is difficult because not everybody has the privilege and ability to do that. But I know a ton of people now that social media is so much easier and that we have phones with videos on them, that like if you can create small attainable goals for yourself and do those every day, you don't necessarily need to have like some really wealthy spouse or partner or parents or whatever, lottery winnings to live off of. Like just set an attainable goal and meet that and keep yourself accountable to it. And it doesn't have to be like, you know, you don't need an angel investor necessarily. So I do want to mention though, obviously, that like privilege plays into this and different people have different opportunities than everyone else.
Right.
So I know we had communicated a little bit about this week and you just touched on it briefly, but as our final parting question, you have an announcement coming up.
Yeah.
When and where can we find it? I'm so excited. I'm sorry.
When and where? Guys, and can you give us a hint?
I don't know if I can give you a hint, but it is, I will say it is the most excited I have been about my work since 2018. It is big. It is unlike any other platform. And I believe it's going to come end of this week. And I am legitimately, like sincerely, earnestly, incredibly grateful for the opportunity and really like lit up and excited in a way that I haven't been for a couple of years. So, and I also just so like
exciting.
Yeah. I mean that like I also Lauren and I have talked about this. And I think Faith, you and I have talked about this. Like there aren't a lot of moms in this space, and like being a mom requires a level of energy that I don't think many people recognize in the working space in general. And so like my kids have been, I had my daughter week 15 of the 2016 season. She is now 4. Like they have been my greatest production, and I've balanced that with work. And last year was particularly challenging, and I have been totally okay with that. Because those are choices I've made and things that I am proud of. But now I feel like, fingers crossed, school starts and we all stay okay. The big one's going into second, the little one's going into her last year of preschool. I feel like I can really dig into something, like I even have chills. Like I can dig into something that I did not even imagine would be a possibility. So well, keep an eye on Yahoo Fantasy and keep an eye on my socials. Yeah.
BRB. Setting alert notifications for all of Liz Loza's social media.
Done.
Liz, thank you so much for joining us. Again, Ryan says that the FSWA site is rough, which is putting it nicely. So if Liz says she's the first nominated, she's the first nominated. We are going to take it. We are going to run with it. That's it. The first woman nominated.
Thank you, ladies, so much for having me on.
Thank you so much for joining us again this year. I have one final easy question, but before I ask that, let everybody know where they can find you.
Yes, you can find me on both Twitter and Instagram at the same handle. It is Liz Loza _FF. You can also find me on Yahoo Fantasy. This season kicks off the 16th season of Fantasy Football Live. I always like to add that I watched that show long before I was a cast member on it, and in fact that show is what inspired me to create my blog. So it took a minute, but anything is possible. We will be beginning our 16th season of FFL, and that show kicks off 90 minutes before kickoff live every single Sunday. So be sure to keep an eye on that. And yeah, you know, I'm really proud of the work that everyone at Yahoo Fantasy is doing, and honestly, that so many people I love that the space is growing. Because it's pushing everybody to be better and think bigger. And, you know, hopefully it's not just a cacophony of take locks and loud voices, but actual conversation. And I appreciate you ladies for facilitating one of those with this and the next 2 weeks.
Thank you for being on.
Also, draft Marvin Jones. He's an incredible sleeper. And don't forget Gerald Everett late.
Okay.
Oh, Gerald Everett. That is spicy.
Real quick question.
I like it.
Before I ask a question. So will you be
I think that's
gathering-
going live.
Yeah. Live.
So yeah.
this
Like,
season
so you
Yahoo.
mean-
Greenberg, I think she's trying to say
All in
yeah.
the same,
all
yes,
in the
in
same
person.
Got it.
studio.
In
No,
person.
we are we're gonna keep a virtual studio, but that is largely because our betting expert and analyst Minty Betts lives in Vegas, so she's gonna have to be remoted in. Andy's in Chicago, so it just doesn't make sense to get everybody into a studio when the entire cast is gonna have to be remoted in virtually anyway. So we do have this awesome virtual set. We got a preview of it internally on Tuesday. I think, it's different, and it certainly differentiates us from other live shows in the space.
So
Oh, thanks, Chris.
Chris.
Big fan of yours.
So Liz, we have assigned Justin Jefferson jersey to raffle off, and we have assigned Davante Adams jersey to raffle off. It is up to you, but would you like to stick around with us as we do that?
Sure.
You
Like
can
right
say
now?
No, you want yes, right now.
Yeah, let's go. Let's
Okay,
go.
cool.
Let's go. I just broke a nail. So yeah.
Oh
let's do it.
man.
Oh, word.
My first gel in like 18 months, and look what happens.
Oh, girl, I can't.
Oh, good. We made Josh laugh again.
Have you stopped
This is how I
laughing?
enter the stream. It's like goodness gracious.
No, I don't think he stopped laughing since
No.
he bossed us around before the start of the show. Like when
He
you
bossed
know,
us
right?
around
Content
and
moment
then
getting
failed.
roasted by
he's
Liz
like,
when I'm
yeah,
leaving on
whatever.
screen
And
by
you should be
myself.
laughing because I'm laughing at you for the reason why we even have a signed Justin Jefferson jersey, which you should be
Why is
laughing
that, Lauren?
at.
Take it
Go
back.
get a mirror, hold it in front of your face, and keep laughing.
It's in the box. I'm sorry. I forgot.
I know.
Lauren,
Whatever.
So,
It's my fault.
like I teased last week that there was a story behind you and Josh and Justin Jefferson. Can you please share with the class what that is?
So I may have had a few cocktails, but it wasn't like so over the top that I didn't have my mind right. And Josh bet me that Justin Jefferson was just going to be a flash in the pan when I said, no, sir, he is not. And I believe I said he would finish as a wide receiver 1, didn't I?
You said top 24, and I said no.
Top 24. That's right. I said he's going to finish as a top 24. He said, no, he's not. He's a flash in the pan. And I said, the bet is on. He's supposed to donate to the ASPCA, but instead we got a signed Justin Jefferson jersey to raffle off for Women of Fantasy Football. So I think it's even on that one, but I win.
I like to think that I pay my debts forward. So
You did a great job. But you should listen to me next time.
Why do you think we do this show, Lauren? Because you guys are a hell of a lot smarter than we are.
Oh yeah,
Josh just wanted to believe that because the Eagles skipped out on him.
You're probably
all right. So
right.
who's the beneficiary of my I love it's mine. It's my Justin Jefferson jersey now.
The beneficiary of your wisdom, Lauren.
Yeah, she's that one. My dog. That's what it is.
Oh goodness.
Which one?
All right, let's make
Both.
sure this one's it. Yep.
Wow, there's a lot of names on
There
there.
are a lot of names on this. Holy cow.
Yes.
I
a
can't
lot
even
of
see
names,
any of
yeah.
them.
So real quick, before I spin this wheel, I just want to give a shout out to every single person that donated. This week, we have raised $780 towards our $3,000 goal for the Women of Fantasy Football event. So shout out to all of you that have decided that Davante Adams and Justin Jefferson should be hanging up on your office walls. All right, we ready to see who wins in your Justin Jefferson?
Yes.
Let's do it. I'm ready. Yeah, look, this isn't. I'm ready to give it away, but never forgotten. I wish I could see these. They're so tiny.
Wow.
Get out of here!
No, what? Please,
Josh
Get out of
Jacobs!
here!
no. This is rigged. So, oh my God, Liz.
Oh my God!
He won last week.
Josh,
He won
Jacobs?
a signed football last week.
Yep.
The Raiders running back or the
No.
I'm sure.
Different,
They say
possibly.
no, but we're not sure.
This is weird.
Oh
then he
my
almost
God!
won his second one.
I think you should do it again. Sorry, Josh
kinda
Jacobs,
feel
but
like I
if Kenyon
should.
Drake turns
I'm
into
with
something,
Liz
so
on.
go
I'm
with
with Liz on this one.
I kind of am
I mean-
too, Josh. I'm really sorry, but I don't know, man.
But then I'm also torn because he also donated again. So
Yeah, I mean that's kind of where I'm at with this whole thing. So
that's Lauren's husband. Everybody.
That's my husband, by the way.
Look, here's what
I
I will
smell a
say.
setup.
We did not put in any rules in place that if you won one, you couldn't win the next one.
Well, that kind of
Because
defeats
at
the
the end of
purpose
the
of
day-
raising money for a
Yeah.
foundation.
And that's kind of the whole point of this. It's to continue to raise money. So,
Okay, well, if Josh Jacobs wins the next one, we have a situation.
oh yeah, no.
Wait, your husband's name is Josh Jacobs?
No. My husband did a comment. My husband made a comment.
Her husband's
Jeff
Carpenter.
Carpenter.
There we
go.
Jeff
That one.
Carpenter. Because you're Lauren Carpenter.
You got it.
Yes.
And Josh Jacobs is dead to me this year, so definitely not my husband.
Which
Oh,
Josh
my
Jacobs?
goodness.
I don't know which one now.
That's wild.
But who is who?
That
So,
was wild.
Josh Jacobs, if you're watching, I think you should pick whichever one.
Yeah, this
and pay
one's
it
the
forward
Devontae
to
Adams
somebody.
jersey.
Possibly. We'll talk to Josh Jacobs about that.
Pay it
Just
forward.
sounds so weird to say. So are we spinning for
This is
Devontae
for
Adams.
Devontae Adams.
Boy.
not can he just be known as hashtag not Joshua Jacobs?
Hashtag not Joshua Jacobs.
Dennis
I'm
M.
pretty
Roy. Dennis
I'm
M. Roy,
pretty sure
congratulations,
Dennis
my
was
friend.
at the
Signed
Expo this weekend.
Devontae Adams jersey for Dennis M. Roy. Thank you very much for donating, my friend. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
His burner
so
is now
much.
named Josh Jacobs. This is so crazy. What is happening right now?
Josh Jacobs is just triggering for so many reasons.
I know this is so wrong. This is so wrong. So, Liz,
Oh
thank
my
you so
goodness.
much for
Oh
joining
my
our
God.
insanity yet again. You are nothing short of an inspiration to everybody, not to mention women in this industry, women in this space, and always just your great attitude and your hilarious sense of humor. Honestly, it's always a joy to speak with you, for real.
Oh,
And,
thank
I mean,
you.
If you don't follow Liz on Instagram, you are missing out
You're real
on
silly.
living vicariously through her.
Oh no.
She's great. She's great on Instagram. She's
Love
great
it.
on everything, actually.
Thank you guys. I really appreciate that. This is always fun, and I just want to call out all the people who are supporting. That's amazing. All of the people who are supporting just having different voices and different points of view in the space, and the independent content creators who are grinding and finding their way and finding their voice. And like, what an awesome time to be part of this industry that was already full of really, really nice people. I'm sorry I missed people at the expo, by the way, but I feel very, very grateful to be recognized, but more importantly, included. So thank you.
My champ.
All right, does
Thank
that mean I can go
you.
now?
Absolutely.
Yes, thank you so
Yeah,
much.
Dad,
Put a
did you
band-aid
know?
on this ratchet now.
I know.
This sticker at the bottom.
Josh, he's the bossy one.
All right.
Actually, that's all Joe.
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure that's Joe. This
You can
sticker-
go. You don't
All
have to
right.
stick around for this
Bye,
insanity.
guys. Tell Melissa I said hello. Stay well, guys.
Will
We
do.
will.
Oh my god.
Imagine thinking Josh did that.
Why does
Come
she
on
put
now.
up with us? I don't even know.
Hi,
Imagine-
Joe.
Imagine
I'm gonna
thinking-
pop out. Joe gonna have his little moment as we wait on
Jeez.
Melissa.
Oh, Lord.
Joshua Jacobs, Dennis M. Roy, if you guys are listening, thank you so much for donating. Thank you to everybody else that donated. I'll have another announcement towards the tail end of the show, towards next week's raffles, and we'll go from there, everybody. So, thank you.
Oh my goodness.
Imagine thinking Josh has the creativity to come up with these two things. Come on now.
Creativity or
I know, because you just
knowledge.
said, oh.
I mean, I thought it was pretty funny. So I was enjoying myself backstage. Oh, bye, Lauren. Lauren has to step away for a second. What's up, Faith?
Hi, Joe. How are you?
Good. This is my first appearance on this year's show.
I
so
know. Welcome.
I know. I was excited to be here. Excited to have Liz on. That was a good first. What are we now? 40 minutes in. Apparently, I need Josh Jacobs' luck. Josh, if you're watching, play the lottery because clearly
Right?
you're lucky.
Sunday at the expo, there was a guy who won a DeAndre Swift jersey, and then 2 hours later, one assigned a Darius Leonard jersey.
Nice. Casual.
No, I'm sorry. That is a lie. He did not win he won an Urlacher jersey, not a signed Darius Leonard jersey. But still, he won 2 things in like 2 hours.
Damn, that's good. Good for him.
Yeah.
I don't really know what to say to that. That's pretty cool. The luck to have there, and then obviously, we're doing some pretty cool stuff. Oh my God, Lauren, you're back.
Oh my gosh, it's Stepmom Lauren. Hi.
Lauren, you're that excited to see yourself?
I am. I'm always excited to see myself. Thanks.
Sometimes I am not excited to see myself.
Yeah, no, I'm normally not either. It's more like, ugh.
Yeah, especially depending on the time of day versus how many cups of coffee I've had or how many hours of sleep I've had. Also a distinguishing factor.
Are we still waiting on Miss Jacobs?
Yeah, we are.
I believe we are.
Melissa should be here any second, founder of the Football Girl. I'm excited.
I'm super excited. I'm going to talk about boss ladies.
Yeah, I wish I Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Joe.
Why am I speaking? Go.
I don't know.
No, go ahead, Joe.
Oh, I would say I wish I could stay for the whole thing, but we have a team dinner tonight to wrap up the Lark season, so I sadly will not be able to stay the rest of the show once Melissa joins us. I know.
So I know this is Women of Fantasy Football, but Joe's here, and I have a question.
Sure.
So, the Larks, is it a minor league team, or is it a collegiate team? Like,
it is a collegiate summer league team.
What does that mean?
So in the summer, the players that obviously were playing in college need a place to play in the summer if they haven't been drafted. So they will play in a collegiate summer league. So you might have heard of the Cape Cod League, the Coastal Plains League. If you know the Savannah Bananas, that's basically what we are.
Savannah Banana.
Yeah, so that's basically what we are.
Joe, really?
LFG Larks, # flap your wings. Brand recognition, always. It's nice. It's nice. So we that's essentially what we are. It's just a summer collegiate team. So we get players from across the country that play collegiately throughout the spring, and then once their season's over, they come and play with us. But I'm done talking because I think someone just joined the chat room.
That is fantastic. So our next guest, I actually had the opportunity to actually have a conversation with her and one of our guests from next week, Stefania Bell, on Clubhouse on draft night. Ladies and gentlemen, Melissa Jacobs.
Woo! Hello.
Hi, girl.
How are you guys doing?
No, how are you? Your earrings are
my god,
super awesome.
Thank you.
Are those feathers? Stop it.
No, they're not. I actually got them. I was able to sneak to Hawaii this summer, so it was just some like artisan farmers market thing.
Oh my god, those are the best.
I know, right?
Those are the best. I got a couple pairs of earrings from Denver when we went, and I don't know if it's true or not that it was made out of like elk hide and like deer hide and stuff, and it was like,
oh my gosh,
just like homemade. You could definitely tell, and they're my absolute favorite earrings, just because you can't go buy them on Amazon, sadly.
No,
but it's just they're gorgeous. So I agree with Faith. Fab.
Yeah, these are just like little tiny beads. Very. I think the hands are too big to make them. They're like
they
very,
move,
very tiny.
And that's
it's like a little itty bit. I mean, they do. They have a lot of fluidity. That's why I thought they were
kind of like
feathers
the ocean in Hawaii.
Perfection.
Or the hula, also in Hawaii.
Yes. So
Melissa, yes, ma'am.
No, I was gonna say that was my Clubhouse initiation. You were part of it. So Stefania, you're gonna have on next week.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
that's awesome. She's the best. We're very good friends, and we're both 49ers fans. So we were texting throughout the draft, and then when the 49ers eschewed Mac Jones and got Trey Lance, she's like, we got to try this thing. We're just going to start talking. And like, I don't even know how it works completely either. And then Faith was there, and I don't know. I feel like we started talking about the Patriots or something.
I was the only one in the room with the two of you for a hot minute. And so you guys asked about my fandom and what I thought about our pick, Mac Jones, and with Bill Belichick, it's one of those things that you never know. Because I could hate a pick and Bill Belichick's going to turn him into gold, or I could love a pick and Bill Belichick's like, no, I don't like him. He's gone. So I have yet to see. But I honestly think I love Mac Jones. First of all, his middle name is McCorkle, and how do you not love that?
Wait,
oh, yeah,
McCorkle.
that's what Mac is short for. His full name is Michael McCorkle Jones. McCorkle is his mother's maiden name.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yes. And she was the end of, she didn't have any male siblings to carry on the last name. So Mac got the middle name.
So in order to not get beat up constantly with the name McCorkle, he just turned into a stellar, amazing quarterback. I made that up. Totally made that up. I'm kidding.
Drafted by the New England Patriots.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
I'm
I
excited to see what they do on Thursday. I did.
Oh, no. I laughed.
Don't apologize.
When I first read it, I laughed. I was on a live stream on draft night, and we were talking about Mac and where it came from. And so I looked it up, and on a live stream, I cackled. And they were like, what? And I was like, you got to hear this story because it's hilarious.
Yeah.
So, Melissa, you have had an amazing career. You have worked for some companies, people might have heard of, like ESPN or Sports Illustrated or, The Guardian. I mean, you might have heard of those names. So what were some of the biggest takeaways from each of those stops in your career? It is a loaded question. So
Wow. Well, yeah, it's first of all, I'm still, in fact, I just confirmed it today. I'm gonna be doing the NFL column again this year for The Guardian. I do other stuff for them too. Even other sports, but it's like the Sunday column is their big NFL,
the big one,
in the season, where you are on deadline, you're watching all the games, and you're writing little.
Lauren knows all about that.
Yes, yeah,
I do.
Right. I do. And you're very tired, right, on Monday?
I don't have a brain. I was telling this to Liz, but I specifically got this cup based on its nice swirlies and colors because that's what my brain looks like after about 3 hours of Sunday. I'm like, it's absolute insanity. Absolutely. But somehow it's a chaotic, creative mess. But yes, I feel you on that. Nowhere near to the extent of which I believe you do, because you, like you said, you do multiple sports. But that's just for the Guardian NFL column too. And I believe it's pronounced ESPN, not ESPN. For those people who aren't familiar, I'm just kidding. No. And tell us a little bit too about ESPN, about Sports Illustrated, because you are all over the place. You're not just a content creator. You do all sorts of things. So fill us in.
I've actually worked for people. Isn't that crazy? I've had bosses. It's so weird. So yeah, it's very different phases of my career. So ESPN was like a couple years out of college. I'm from the Bay Area. I actually went over there for radio. My first job out of college was at at KMBR, which is the big sports station in San Francisco. And we were one of the biggest affiliates of ESPN radio. I don't know if they still are, but I don't listen to local radio anymore. I shouldn't say that. Sorry. But I would deal with their like affiliate people all the time. So they would kind of hear what we're doing. And then they I guess they recruited me. So, I mean, that was like early 20s, going from San Francisco to Bristol, Connecticut. I had never driven in snow. But you're in this environment, and it's like partially inspiring because you're just like with so many smart people, and I started getting immersed on the television side like pretty quickly after I got there. But I'm producing radio shows. I start getting to the television side. I actually created a job for myself and then a department, which was really rooted in booking guests.
I'm going to sneak in there real quick because I know you're just going to gloss over this, Melissa, and I'm going to call you out for it. She was the youngest executive producer in the history of KNBR radio in San Francisco.
Yeah.
So there's that.
There's that.
I mean, quite frankly, I was just a complete workaholic. So like when I think of the different phases of my career, like I'm like, now I got 2 kids and like I couldn't do what I did then, even if I wanted to, right?
Like eat and sleep and
my bosses would
have 10 minutes to
like,
yourself.
You have to, what did I have, a pager or something? Like you have to turn your pager off on the weekends. Like you cannot, like you are working too much. You don't need to go to everything. You don't need to like turn your brain off. So like, that was very good advice, but it also helped me succeed at the time, because I don't think people at that point gave 2 craps other than this particular boss about work-life balance, right? So I kind of rose through the ranks pretty quickly based on having no other life other than my job, but loving it too. Like it was very, I mean, when you know, especially if I grew up a Niners fan, Giants fan. I actually thought I wanted to be a sports agent. And this was sort of like, oh, like getting in the media will be fun. It's like something to do before I go to law school. I never went to law school. Loved media. It's just so like, I don't know, the multitasking, the, you know, self creation, the evolution of it. So I had my career at ESPN. I mean, it just involved radio, creating my own job, working. I got really immersed in like NFL Live, which just kind of gave me the backbone to eventually start the Football Girl, Sports Center. I worked on the ESPYs, like various roles doing that, worked on like different shows, different products, different lots of things. Even ESPN The Phone. Anyone remember that? That was like, that was a thing. I'm glad you don't, because people were very mad about that. It was like a huge disaster, actually.
What was it?
It was like a phone that was just branded ESPN, but then I guess it didn't work that well. So I think it was supposed to be embedded with like, you know, an early version of apps, I guess, like trivia games and stuff.
Oh, so it was like a cell phone.
Yeah, it was a cell phone. Yeah,
interesting.
It didn't take off. You guys haven't heard of it, so obviously. That was a thing.
Oh my gosh.
So, okay, somebody. Yes, thank you. So that was just amazing, and I made friends and contacts there that I still have to this day. I just took a girls' trip with a couple of my friends.
Oh, yay!
That's producers fun. There. Yeah, so that, I mean, just amazing experience, and even after, you know, I kept kind of going back. Even after I left, I never really left. But yeah, then I guess I started the Football Girl after that. But you just want to talk about like the big name places, so that's fine.
Well, that's actually going to be my next question. That's totally going to be my next question. Is, you know, so how did you get into the Football Girl? What gave you that inspiration? What was the purpose of it, and why does it kind of fulfill a need that you thought was missing? But you know, I guess that's me kind of assuming that's why you started it. But that's going to be my next question. So, do you have ESPN? See what I did there? Because it's like a whole network up in here. ESP.
There's a 30% chance it's already.
Girl, I know I haven't. I use that a lot actually. Okay, but I mean, yes, I did.
Yeah. Okay. I can tell you did. Very, very good. Nicely done.
Thank you. Thank you.
So yes, you are correct. Usually it's important to start something. That's my main advice. Make sure that there's actually a need for it. At the time, and I would argue still today that when I launched the Football Girl, I mean, there was nothing marketed to women. Like you guys weren't out there. Maybe you were, and I didn't know you yet. Maybe we couldn't connect via Twitter. Like there were no women, literally no women talking about fantasy football. That's one thing. This is like pre even Stefania Bell landing it. Like I think she landed right after I started. Liz didn't have. I think Liz was still acting at the time or something. Or so she had her website, Fantasy Football Girl, Liz Loza. That was what she had before Yahoo.
That's the blog that she started. Yeah.
Yeah. And we would get confused, right? Because I was a football girl. She was a fantasy football girl.
Happens all the time.
but the way, you know, the NFL was so bad at marketing to women. Like it was all pink and everything was football 101. It was so condescending. And this assumption that there was such a minuscule number of female fans that actually knew the game. So they were trying to, you know, I know female apparel was their fastest growing ancillary business. That's kind of how they treated women from a content standpoint of like, oh, you're just here to buy like pink sweatshirts. Like you don't actually want to talk and analyze these games at all. So I just, you know, I actually originally was going to create this site just for fantasy football and kind of quickly realized that I mean, I don't know if, I guess we can talk about this in a second. I didn't think there was so much differentiation between the way women consumed, and I did some studies on this and whatnot, the way women consumed fantasy football. Although I would argue women are more competitive fantasy football players than men.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Right,
Mhm.
right. But the way they consumed the actual game and the kinds of stories they wanted, and they still want, and again, it's evolved, but still wanted that analysis, but didn't need to read, and I respect the hell out of Bill Simmons, but didn't read like all his like bro-y NFL
Mhm.
columns. Like me and my bros, like we went to Vegas, we like went to a strip club, and like that turns you on, like I just want to know what you think about the Patriots, right? Like I don't care about like the name of the stripper at your strip club or whatever.
Yeah, I don't need to know about Candy Apple. Just tell me what you
Yeah.
think. Right.
Right. So, I'm like, I'm not going to make this pink. It's just going to be called Football Girl. Like, I'm going to try to have, women contribute, speak to women, but I'm also not going to alienate men. I made that
Mhm.
decision early on. Like, I'm going to have, when appropriate, going to have males that want to be part of this, that want to help engage the female audience. So that's how I launched it. And kind of quickly after I launched it, ESPNW launched. So I kind of had this series of just happenstance events that gave me opportunities, one of which is ESPNW. I was one of their founding contributors, and I actually did fantasy football for them. Like somehow I was doing chats on ESPN.com, which was super cool. And that's how I got to know Stefania. We did some like women in fantasy football, kind of maybe similar to what you guys are doing right now. But we did some in-person events in New York together, which is great. And that sort of helped form our friendship that still exists. And then Sports Illustrated to fast forward to that. I mean, that was just totally out of the blue. It was the person who became my boss, heard me on a podcast talking about what I would do with the Football Girl if I had more resources, essentially. I'm like, what my vision was. And they had a recruiter reach out to me, and he was like, I think we could apply that to the NFL section of Sports Illustrated. And it was not like a very like super popular podcast. It's such a lesson in like, when you put something out there or you guest on a podcast, I mean, who knows who's listening to this, right? Like you don't know where your opportunities are going to come from. So, and I didn't go on that podcast to try to have somebody from Sports Illustrated reach out to me. That was just the result. But yeah, so then I became the NFL editor. It was kind of a weird situation. So I was the NFL editor of the website, but then they also had MMQB, which is Peter King's baby. So it's kind of like two competing websites at Sports Illustrated, but it was still, I got to work with some of the best writers, like literally in existence, and just do cool stories and sort of had a runway to, sort of an easel that we could kind of fill in and try some different things. Ultimately, I would say MMQB won out, and the NFL site doesn't really exist in the form. But I knew that. I got there, and I immediately went to my boss. I'm like, we got to merge these two things. Like, what are we doing? And eventually they did. So
that's awesome.
So you made a comment earlier that I think it's really important for people to understand. We, especially here at Women of Fantasy Football, but Lauren and myself individually, and the handful of women that I know in fantasy football, including Liz, promoting women in football or women in fantasy football, women in sports. Our goal isn't to tear down the men that are there. Our goal is not to step on them to get ahead of. It's just to be equal. So the fact that you didn't eliminate male writers from the Football Girl is a big example of that. It's hey, we're not here just to bash everybody. As long as you support our cause, we would love to have you stand right next to us, because that's just as important for there to be men who support women in sports. And I know the guys at No Pun Intended at Club Fantasy are really great about doing that. And there's a bunch of other guys that I know that are just as great. And so it's important. And I love that you included male writers and weren't exclusionary and just saying, no, it's a female thing. It's a girls only club. No boys allowed.
Yeah, and I appreciate you saying that. And when I started, I was like, why would I want to exclude men for like I felt excluded. That's the very thing that I have felt for like my whole life being a football fan. Like, why now would I say, okay, you're not allowed to this thing that hopefully will be cool, right? Like, no, I want you to be part of it and support us. And I just really wanted to create an environment where women could comment on pieces. Women could share their mind. Women could, because that was always missing too. Like you go to the comments and it's like Doug and Joe and Bobby and Bill. And no offense to all of them, like they're all great, but like I feel and I think I felt the same also. Even though I was confident in my own knowledge, I'm like, wow, I don't belong here. Like I don't feel like I belong here. It's just a place where it's so. This is awesome. Like what you guys are doing, just that we can. We can shoot the shit about whatever. And I'm sure there's men. Yeah. I mean, there's men watching, I assume, and being part of this. And I mean, I don't know if we're teaching anything, but learning.
Yeah, we're not here to teach. We are here to shoot the shit, as you said.
How you make earrings. And
exactly, girl. Exactly. Because it's a thing. I did not make these either, but they are like tiny beads. But I do want to touch on something that you mentioned a little bit before and elaborate just a hair. Because one of the things that you've done so much different types of content, types of different things. Yeah. But one of the things specifically I like about writing so much is that if you can create a solid argument based on your research, whatever that research is, and back up your opinion, it suddenly becomes very blind, which is why I love fantasy football so much, is that people don't see my face or hear my voice. They're reading my argument as it goes through. And to me, that does kind of create a little bit more of an even playing field. So what would you say to any woman who is wanting to, and ask this to Liz as well, not just women, but men as well, who want to kind of bust into this idea of fantasy football content creation, and what are the first steps that you would recommend for them in order to maybe try their hand at the space?
Yeah, well, Lauren, it's very, it's interesting because as you were saying that, I was thinking of just all the horrible trolling comments that I would get, but it's always when, I'm writing about social justice issues, or when I wrote about for the Guard, like I did a reported piece on how I basically was projecting the Jaguars to make their home in London in 5 years, and then getting all these angry like Jacksonville people at me. But that's a totally different situation than fantasy.
It's Jacksonville. We here in Florida just disregard them.
Yeah, I was called a lot of names for that piece that I still remember. Wow. But yeah, but the point of being is that it's totally different, like that kind of commentary versus writing about football, because what's so great about fantasy football writing is it really is rooted in stats and trends and there's so much information out there. It's like, what are the sources that you're using, the resources, and you're packaging that and forming your own opinion. You're not making social arguments about things, unless you want to have a do not draft list or something. But yeah, to answer, the entry point, I mean, there's always the argument, like, should you work for free or not? And that's a total like situational based thing. I know there's not a lot of money in fantasy. There's only a handful of jobs that can actually be like full time.
Right. And
I think people need to understand that now. And I think it is hard. Sorry, I should be more positive. It's hard, and you shouldn't do this, and you're going to get trolled. You will not know. It's not that hard. You won't get trolled. You should work hard. Don't first of all, don't enter the world. I'm gonna get positive here. I promise. Make sure you know your shit. Number one, like obviously, I know but it's not a place you can fake it in fantasy. And I was so like honored that you guys wanted me on this show, but I'm not like Liz. Like I don't write fantasy every day.
Doesn't matter. Like, we're honored you said yes.
No, I'm like, if they ask me for like, Rondale Moore projections, like I don't know if I can do that off the top of my head.
Girl, you and I are best friends.
Yeah, she's not
I don't
really,
write.
I think I'm the only like fantasy person here. But I guess my question is like the reason I love writing about fantasy sports and fantasy football, I guess because I don't write, I try to at least eat and sleep. So I only do fantasy football. But the reason I like really doing that is because it is blind. But for someone who wants to get into any type of content creation, because you've had so many different roles and so many different jobs, and you did mention before that you've kind of created these on your own. I mean, like, I guess what I'm trying to extrapolate from this, so I'm just going to put words in your mouth here, is don't be afraid to create those things. And like you and Liz actually had mentioned too about we have to think bigger, right? We have to think bigger than beyond than ourselves and in this tiny little box that we've lived in for so long, especially because of COVID. And the things that we have to do to expand and network and meet new people. And I think you've done such a great job of that throughout your career without the necessity of necessarily being forced into this because of a pandemic or of anything else that's going on. So what kind of advice, what kind of motivation would you give to somebody who wanted to follow in a similar type of fashion, who wants to get into what you do? I believe you do like guest talent, right? And you book talent. You did that for NFL Live? Yeah. I mean, you've done so many different things.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, know your skill set. That was something that came really easy to me at the time. I mean, I shouldn't say it was that easy because not every guest says yes, but I loved working people. I loved working agents and those relationships. Like at the time, that was like so up my alley. Now I love writing because it's kind of up my alley, but it's also like a little bit of a challenge. So I think you need to find a thing that's gonna like the thing that kind of comes natural to you. So maybe your entry point, like maybe you're really good at video production and you start making videos. Maybe you as talent aren't there yet, but you do other cool things with the videos that stand out. And then the other part comes as you're getting more reps. If you're a natural writer, you just, like if it's fantasy, you got to find a way to differentiate yourself, right?
Right.
Whether first of all, make sure your pieces are well edited and well written, like infuse your personality. What is it about?
She's the editor extraordinaire. Right over here.
I mean, editors are the MVPs.
Queens and kings and emperors and goddesses.
Totally.
Yes.
Totally. I think making sure that you just have your own voice and being confident in that and not being scared to post things and, getting creative, using your social channels. Maybe you don't have one yet. You're building your following. Like, what is the thing that I can do here that's different? Like, what's a series I can run? What's even like a stat that you can use and you can input like differently. And you do that on a schedule and people start to know it and people start to share it and meet people and use them. People in the fantasy industry, like to this day, like I kind of started in the industry and again, I've veered away and I kind of like have dipped my toe back in. They're so amazing. And like the people, like even the top level people are willing to help. Like it is like Matthew Berry. I saw him at the combine the last time there was a combine. We didn't have one last year.
Sad, right?
Yeah. And I was telling him about some of the stuff I was doing. And he's just like, I love that you're promoting women. Like hit me up whenever, if you need anything promoted, like anyone on your podcast or any, thing you're doing with other women. He loves it. Right. Like and I'm not like friends with him per se, but like
he's a good person.
He's a very good person, but there's other like top people in the industry, men and women. Liz will help out. Stefani will help out. Like all like people and like make sure you use them, even if you feel like, oh, I'm at this level and they're at this level. Ask them for help because those, these are like all respected people, and that you're gonna get your following like that, and just. So I know I've done so many different random things and my lane has changed so many times. Like for me, that works. But I think for other people, that kind of helps you solidify your lane when you see what like really sparks you and sparks an audience.
I love it.
Agreed. And I mean, like you said, ask those people for help because they can't answer you if you don't ask. You ask and the worst they say is no. But hey, you shot your shot.
Shoot
your
shot.
I'm like, what is the past tense of shoot your shot? You shot your shot.
The Wayne Gretzky, right? It's like every shot you don't take is a miss or something.
Yeah, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
There you go.
Yes.
There you go.
I'm a hockey girl.
Yeah,
Yes.
there you go.
I love my Wayne Gretzky a little bit, even though he was on our team for like a minute. That's fine though.
Fabio is
deal.
better, but hey.
Hey,
Hey.
Chili
Look
Cup
at
stamps
over
right
here.
here.
I don't watch hockey. I care. I feel
Okay.
like the same people when I was in high school are like still playing now. Like they play for like 70 years. These hockey.
It's
players.
ridiculous. I think they're
Basically.
all cyborgs. I'm
Something
like, did
like
you
that.
replace
Yes.
all of your joints and bones with
I know.
adamantium? Because I don't know how you're still
Adamantium.
walking. Like, what is happening? But I have
They're
a
the
random
Captain
question
America
for you.
of
Yeah, literally.
players.
Although
Oh my god.
I love hockey so much, like because football is my love, my work love. I that's what I do, all my fantasy stuff. Hockey is like my guilty pleasure love, and I love one player so much that I named my cat after him. Is Ryan O'Reilly from the St. Louis
O'Reilly
Blues.
cat.
My O'Reilly cat.
Oh my
That's how
God.
ridiculous I am. And my poor husband is like, can we watch something else on TV
Oh my
besides sports?
God.
I'm like, no, deal with it. It gets really bad. It's sad. But I have a question for you. This is a question
Yeah.
I like to ask because the answers are very wide and they
Oh,
are
no.
allowed to be.
Okay.
So it can be anything, but what is the one thing that you see on social media that just drives you berserk? It can be anything. It doesn't have to be about sports or anything else. Just something that you see on social media that you're like, I can't stand it.
Somebody last year said choreographed dances.
Choreographed dances drives them up the wall.
So
Oh my
anything.
gosh.
Anything
Anything.
goes.
I have,
Anything
like,
goes.
I have mean thoughts in my head that I'm gonna.
Oh.
But I'm not
No,
gonna
share them.
I was gonna say you can air your grievances. That's fine with
Yeah.
us.
No, I know.
Just don't name names and nobody will know it's about them. You're good.
Then you'll make them think about it, and then maybe they'll change their ways.
Maybe.
Well, this is a non-sports thing, but I hate how every person on Instagram that is also a parent, like their kids are perfect. Like I feel like I feel like my friends, because I know my friends' kids and I love them all, and they're like not all perfect, and it's not my friends, it's like other people that I'm not like I'm sort of tangentially know. I just don't like that aspect of Instagram. I want to be like my kid like didn't
Covered
do his
in
homework
ketchup.
tonight,
Yeah.
and like he didn't make his room, and he like screamed at me and like hit his brother, and like I want to like be able to capture that aspect. Here's the thing that this is just a very minor thing. People that are like really well known on Twitter, I'm talking about followings and like hundreds of thousands. This is clearly not me. When they write a piece that like they send the piece out, right, and it gets like 5,000 likes and like a bunch of people retweeting it, and then they start retweeting people like that were like, oh, this was a great article. And then they just like retweet all the people, like, and then their whole feed is like 50.
Yeah.
They just pick 50 like compliments to retweet of themselves. It's just a little pet peeve of mine. I feel like it's not necessary.
That's interesting.
Is that?
I love it because I've never really noticed that before. I've never noticed that before, but now I will like pay attention to that and be like, oh, I see you just
What does that
retweeted your
mean?
retweet over retweet. I see what you're doing.
Like if your piece is
Tweedledee.
I mean, I've definitely written pieces myself, and I'm like, oh, I don't know if enough people have clicked on it, and I'm not like this piece is great, but I'll like reshare it a few times.
Yeah, but there's a difference. There's a difference between being like, how do I look in the bathroom mirror selfie? You know, like as opposed to I just want to get this out to as many people as possible.
Right,
There's a big difference between the two of those things. I see what you're saying.
Right.
And I think there's a difference of you retweeting your article several times versus you retweeting Lauren's quote tweet saying how great you were. It's kind of like oh, hey, everybody, by the way, this person thinks I'm awesome. Look at me. Oh, and so does this person over here. Like, they're never going to retweet or promote anything where somebody said, you know what, I disagree with you, or I don't like that take, or whatever, because nobody likes to focus on that. It's all about social media in general today is all about self worship and hey, look at me. Listen, I can be guilty if I'm feeling myself. Like I can take a selfie.
Yeah. I mean, filters are nice. Let's be real. Like
for real.
Thank you, Jesus. Sometimes I just,
Filters
this doesn't
are
happen in
magical.
seconds.
No. And sometimes you just want to you're feeling your outfit, but you just didn't feel like putting on makeup. So you want to take a cute picture, but this just is not picture worthy.
Like,
I feel that. Filters are your friend.
I do love
So-
your shirt though. What does that say? I said I got.
Is it
So,
nevertheless she
nevertheless-
persisted?
Yeah.
I need that in my life. Mine's WOFF. Women of Fantasy
Oh,
Football.
I love it.
Yay!
I love it.
Homemade.
That was mine.
Hers is
Is
the
yours?
nicer version of my homemade one.
Lauren's
Okay, so
got
one more
coming.
rando. Let me do one more rando question for you. What was your biggest? I don't want to call it a guilty pleasure, but what was your like go-to during the pandemic, like just to make you feel better? Like 90s music, or I don't know. You've Got Mail with Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan.
I started binging on All American. Have you guys seen that show?
Ooh, no.
Is
I
that
think
the
it's-
football one on like the
Yeah.
CW?
Yes.
No, I
and
haven't.
It's like basically geared towards 16-year-olds, but I love it.
Those are sometimes the best. They get really deep,
Yeah,
by the way. I'm like,
yeah.
okay, Dr. Phil, what's going on here? These are for young adults.
I watched Riverdale, so
Oh yeah, same. That's another guilty pleasure. Yeah.
Yes.
so good.
And
I love it.
my husband, like every episode, he's like, "Why are we like? What is wrong with us? Why are we watching
No,
this?"
you don't even understand because mine was Finding Bigfoot on Discovery
What?
Plus. Yeah,
Oh
oh
my
my God.
gosh.
Like people would be
sounds
like, oh, you know,
amazing.
hey, you want to go do something? Like, no, I'm on my couch finding Bigfoot. Okay. No, they don't find him. Spoiler alert. But it is fun watching them try.
Yeah.
That was my guilty pleasure. So actually watching something that is sort of fun and not just people hooting and hollering in a forest. I don't know. I think I might take yours over mine.
Sounds fun though.
We're not talking bad about the CW.
I know we're saying it.
I also watched Dynasty on the CW. So
Wait, is
The
that like
new-
a remake of Dynasty?
yes, it's set in it.
Oh,
Oh my
no.
gosh, it's set in Atlanta. It's so bad. It's good. It's so amazing. But
I need
so
Stranger
terrible.
Things to come back out.
See, I
well,
got
that's more
30 minutes
quality.
into the first episode of Stranger Things and just meh.
You blaspheme.
I got yelled at the expo for the same thing.
Oh,
Right,
well, I
Reese.
can't. I despise what's it called by George R.R. Martin. I can't watch that.
Oh, Game of
Game
Thrones?
of Thrones.
Garbage.
Oh,
Garbage.
see, I watched Game of
I read the
Thrones.
books and they were terrible. So as soon as it came out as a show, I was like, why? No. Junk.
I
Junk.
see, I didn't
I know
read the
I'm gonna
books,
get
they were
so
just so
much
ugly.
hate, and that's okay because I totally invited it by having a very strong negative opinion about Game of Thrones. And I'm a sci-fi fantasy girl too, so just not my jam. Not my jam. Mm-mm.
You
Okay.
gotta go find his blog though. He doesn't he blog about the Jets? Like he says very
George R.R. Martin?
Yeah.
He's on a lot of
Oh.
NFL film stuff. He is a big football guy.
Interesting.
Yeah, he's a big
Yeah.
football guy. So he likes to be in on it's not a Football Life, it's the other one. Is it 30 for 30? I can't remember which ones they are, but he has been on several of them. It still doesn't make me like Game of Thrones.
Melissa,
I
I
can't do
have
it.
one final question for you.
Yeah.
In your time at ESPN, in your time at Sports Illustrated, and in your current time at The Guardian, if you had to pick one moment, top of the list, whether it was a person or a piece or an interview, what would be your 101 of all-time career moments?
It's totally not even that sports related, but when I started, like in my early days at ESPN, I got to go out to a press junket for Ocean's whatever the second or third one was, and I got to interview George
12.
Clooney. 12.
12?
But I got to
it was
interview
11, 12, and then 13.
George Clooney,
What?
and that was and Matt Damon, and that was like George Clooney, like whatever, 15 years
Like not
ago.
Nespresso, George Clooney.
Yeah, that was like George Clooney. I can't breathe, George Clooney.
George Clooney in his heyday. Ooh.
Yeah.
What did he smell like? Did he have really good cologne?
He had, everything was good about him. Everything.
Excellent.
His voice,
I always
everything.
imagine that they smell really nice. You know, they got like really expensive
Oh,
cologne or really nice aftershave.
Oh, I'm sure.
The worst thing ever is when you meet somebody and you're like, oh, no, it's bad. Apparently,
Yeah.
Matthew McConaughey doesn't smell very nice.
Well, he doesn't believe in deodorant, right?
That's
Is that
true.
the thing?
So I just had to ask.
Yeah.
But I'm glad he smelled good.
I'm also very tall, so I had to like every time. Like I had a huge crush on Jason Priestley from 90210.
Who didn't?
And then I started covering the Niners, and he was there, and I was like, "Oh my god, you come up to my kneacats because I'm."
Oh no.
But George Clooney was tall, so
I mean, that could work. You never know.
yeah.
Oh my gosh. Melissa, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes,
This
it's so
has
fun.
been so fun. Before we let you go, let everybody know where they can find you.
Yeah, so the football girl is everything in terms of Twitter, a pretty active Facebook page, the website where I'm going to be adding some actually cool fantasy stuff in the coming days. The podcast is coming back next week, I believe. All the football girl, and then I'll also be doing a lot for the Guardian, and I also am a contributor of BBC. So for anyone watching this that's in
When did that happen?
Lauren and I just made the same face.
We were both like, what?
I don't know. It's like I do a lot for them during football season. I'm just like, I do like weekly thing. I just kind of go on when they ask, but it's a lot. It's been for the last 3 years. I'll do a lot of world radio, and then world service is what they call it. Then I'll actually do their TV spots from time to time too.
That is so
wow.
cool.
It's cool.
That is so cool. Good for you. How
Learn
awesome is
something
that?
new every day.
Yeah,
Anyway,
that's pretty
Melissa,
fun.
thank you so much for joining us. This has been a delight and a
Sorry
pleasure.
we usurped so much of your time, but it was such a delight talking with you
this
and
was
just
great.
hearing your story and your perspective. It was one of a kind.
Thank
All
you
right, thanks
for
having me.
yes, and thank you for the football girl.
Absolutely. You
Thank you guys
helped
for-
create us football girls.
Yes.
So
You were one of our
God.
trailblazers. So thank you.
pioneer boss lady, exhibit A.
Oh,
Exhibit A.
thank you guys so much. All
Thank
right.
you so much. Have a
good
great
night.
evening.
Thanks,
Bye.
Melissa.
Bye.
Bye.
Lauren,
Yay. Oh my God. Can you believe this? Week 2, man.
week 2
What
is
is happening?
over.
It's
I
so
know.
nuts. So
We are-
nuts.
Do you realize this means we are halfway through our Women of Fantasy football shows?
I know. Halfway is unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Sad face.
I know, sad face, but not necessarily sad face, because then next year we can have even more guests that we get to talk
I know.
to.
Let's make it 2 months. Forget the
I
boys.
can't even with how many awesome people that we get to meet every single time. And again, for everybody watching, thank you
I
again so
know.
much for tuning in. We still have next week coming too, and a week
Yes.
after that.
Yes.
But Faith, do you want to announce who's coming on next week? Because it's pretty epic.
So our guests for next week are not only powerhouse women in their fields, they are like badass boss women. And I know that the guys are thoroughly excited to meet these women. Josh has told me numerous times that he is going to fangirl out next week, because our first guest next week is the one and only Stefania Bell of ESPN.
Whoop whoop.
I know, that's so
That's exciting. It's really
And-
exciting.
And in case you were like, you know what, one boss lady from a major network isn't enough, what else you got? Well, we have Laura Oakman from Fox Sports. I mean,
That's right.
and she started an organization called Galvanize, and it's all about female empowerment in
It's pretty cool.
journalism and sports. It's fantastic, and we cannot wait to talk to both of them. But as usual, we also have our raffle giveaways. So Lauren, I believe they are live now. So let everybody know, what are our next 2 raffle items that they can buy tickets for and win next week?
This is ridiculous. Are y'all ready for what these are? Because I just looked on our show notes because I forgot, and I don't know how I ever could have forgotten this. This is
Right?
ridiculous. This is stupid. I love it. Okay. And Joshua Jacobs better not win another one
I
of these,
know.
or I'm going to call foul. I can't do
Yes.
it. Okay.
Agreed.
We have a signed Christian McCaffrey jersey and a signed Jonathan Taylor Colts jersey. Stop it right now. Christian McCaffrey signed Panthers jersey. I can't even speak. I'm verklempt. I can't do it. Jonathan Taylor signed jersey. Y'all, this is so exciting.
So excited.
$5 a raffle ticket, everybody. And just, I guess, buy more than Joshua Jacobs. I'm sorry, buddy.
Yeah.
I don't mean to root against you. Thank you so much for donating. Yeah. But, like, also, buy a lottery ticket, bro. I think this is, like, your moment. Like, you need to do this. And then you can pay me. You can pay me via PayPal.
Yeah, exactly.
When you win.
Buy as many tickets as you guys want to. Again, signed Christian McCaffrey, signed Jonathan Taylor. And I believe Josh actually brought them down so that he could show you guys what they look like. Josh.
Whoa. There's your Jonathan Taylor jersey.
There we go.
And here's your McCaffrey jersey.
CMC.
That's crazy.
You know me.
That's
Look
pretty epic, guys. $5 raffle. We will get that going live so y'all can donate and help out a great cause for women of fantasy football. And just for me, thank you for, I feel like the groomed. I just show up and talk like an idiot and ask questions. But I get to fangirl out like Josh is going to do next week. I get to fangirl out every single week with all these amazing women.
I do want to give a quick shout out really quick to Joshua Jacobs. So he is a Marine Corps veteran.
Whoa,
and he's actually giving these gifts away to veterans from an organization that he works with that happens to be fans of teams that
okay, now I'm just going to cry.
Now I'm going to cry. Shout out Joshua Jacobs. Joshua Jacobs.
We take back.
I take back everything I said.
Joshua Jacobs is a hero in all efforts.
Kudos to you.
So.
Also, thank you very much for your service. 100%. Well, geez, now I want him to win every time.
I wanted to end on a positive note. So
that was a great note.
Thank you for
so
sharing,
never mind, Joshua.
Josh.
I'll be rooting for you every single week.
Yes. So once again,
we sound like such nasty bitches after that just got put down. Like straight up. Like I'm so sorry. I swear
on that
I'm a nice
note, I'm Faith. You can find me at FF_LizaFaith. That is Lauren. You can find her at Stepmom Lauren. That is Joshua Hudson. You can find him at The One Hudsonian and Club Fantasies at Club Fantasy FFL. Join us again next Wednesday. Once again, for Stefania Bell, Laura Oakman, and your chance to win a signed Christian McCaffrey jersey and a signed Jonathan Taylor jersey. Have a great week.